Welcome to the Hollis Chapman Show, where we celebrate the power of words and the beauty of storytelling. Join us every week. We have conversations with authors and small business owners. We have exciting lineup of guests who will take us on a literary journey like no other. Join us as we delve into the world of authors and small business owners from diverse backgrounds and cultures, each bringing their own unique perspective and voice to the table. From thrilling memoirs to captivating fiction and business startups, our guests will share their stories, their struggles, and their triumphs, offering us a glimpse into the rich tapestry of human experience. Immerse yourself in the magic of words and discovery as we explore the global literary landscape together. So grab a cup of tea, cozy up by the fire, and join us on this adventure of a lifetime. The Hollis Chapman Show is your ticket to a world of imagination, inspiration, and enlightenment. Don't miss out on the opportunity to connect with some of the most talented and compelling voices in literature today. Tune in and let the journey begin.
Hello, and welcome to the show today. Happy Thursday. We've got a special Thursday show today. Great. We got a great guest. He's hailing from Los Angeles, great city. Did you know Los Angeles, and probably a lot of other cities, has a lot of underground tunnels? Now, him and his buddies found out. So he'll talk more about that, but tunnels, amazing, okay? Our guest, born and raised in Los Angeles, he's a global traveler, adventurer, and storyteller. He's going to talk about his latest book. His adventures from his travels really give him inspiration to write. Without further ado, let's welcome to the show a special guest, Ben Crockett. Hello, sir.
How you doing?
I'm doing well. Hey, thanks for joining us today on this special Thursday show. Great story. You got, a storyteller, like you said. I love that. I appreciate that. So tell us more about yourself and your latest book as we dive into these tunnels in LA.
Well, I grew up in Los Angeles, on the outskirts of Los Angeles, late 70s through the 80s and 90s. I lived there for 36 years and saw a lot of change. But as kids, when you're growing up there and you don't have a lot of money, you just go explore, you go find free fun. And the washes, the underground washes that are just designed to carry runoff from the mountains all the way out to the sea, that just became a natural place for us. They were caves, they were mysterious and kind of scary. And so we started exploring them until we realized once we could learn them, we could navigate all over town underground and nobody knew where we were. So it was great because you could just pop up in people's backyards and grab some fruit off their tree, jump back in, and then, pop up somewhere else in town. So it was a great place for adventure and mischief for sure.
You think about that, that sounds exciting. But what if one of you guys got hurt and nobody knew where you were? Could be the negative part of it, right? When one of you got hurt and all of a sudden it's like, oh shoot, nobody knows we're down here, right?
Well, that was always the thought because nobody ever
Yeah.
did know we were down there. But
Yeah.
in all the time we spent down there, nothing weird ever happened. It was scary, and that was the fun part. You go down there and you scare each other just being down there. But nothing bad ever happened, and that is kind of what made the era, why I chose the 90s as a basis for this, because that was kind of the freedom of youth. Was there were no pagers, no cell phones,
Yeah.
and nobody did know where you were. If you got hurt, you kind of had to have your network of friends, and they had to decide, do we leave him here and go for help, or do we try and drag him to safety? And
Yeah.
that was always the reality. Fortunately it never played out in the tunnels. But that was a reality, but it's something you don't think about when you're 12, 13 years old. You're
Yeah.
invincible.
Outstanding. Okay, let's jump in. Los Angeles is known for its sprawling urban landscape, vast networks of roads and freeways. We all know that because we travel them all the time. What unique characteristics, other than tunnels, do you think set the city apart with mystery and exploration? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean that's an interesting one because everybody knows Los Angeles, and growing up there, I can tell you the house I grew up in is now 18 blocks. I used to cross the street and be in the mountains, and now it's 18 blocks from the mountains. They just build,
Wow.
and it keeps going out. And that got me thinking that that whole area, there was Native Americans, and then there's the Old West that came through there, the missions, all the old in the 40s, all the movies that they would shoot everywhere. And then they kept building the city on top and building the city on top and just spreading out. And I think that's what makes it such a unique place is it did have this transition from kind of, you know, old west all the way through modern times, and now it's this bustling city, but it still has all these quiet corners that people forget about. And that's the interesting thing about these washes that go under the streets. You're 12 feet from civilization. You could stand on
Mm.
someone's shoulder and stick your hand out, one of the rain gutters, but you're just far enough away that if something terrible happened, like you said, nobody would know it. You could
Yeah.
be down there for, if you got hurt down there, you could be down there for months and nobody would ever know it. So it is the mysterious place in that sense.
Doing what you did, was that how you started to get all this material in your head, even though you didn't realize what you were doing, kind of collecting material for later on in your life to start writing? Because again, writing and picture taking and travel is what you're famous for now. Did you think back then that, wow, this is great material?
At the time, it felt like nothing. It wasn't
Yeah.
until I was in my 30s and I was telling stories of my childhood and hearing how other adults react to the things we did as kids, and they're appalled. They're like, I can't believe you guys would do that, or your parents would do that, or didn't know where you were and you were sneaking out at night. And it was, that gave it perspective to me later on. And then I started really reflecting on it and going, this is, nothing ever happened. We don't have any great real stories of being underground and having something crazy happen. But it was, I guess, in other people's heads, it was the most terrifying thing you could do. Just go walk into these dark tunnels and go explore. But, for us, it was commonplace and it was free. And we just
Yeah.
go do it, never give it a second thought.
Hey, Ben, have you ever kind of researched and figure out how they did that without anybody up top knowing that they're doing that? Because it's miles and miles of underground tunnels, washes for a great reason. But how do they do it without the top of the world knowing that they're doing it? You have any idea?
So yeah. So it's the tunnels themselves. It's like if you've never been in LA or it's just built onto a hillside. So I actually did some research on how far back these washes go, and a lot of them go back 100+ years.
Wow.
And it was just ways they would route water around the city or route water around developments. And pretty soon they started cementing these little washways in that they would create. And then they went, square footage in Los Angeles is worth a ton. Let's just put a road over the top of this wash, and now it's underground. And
Mm.
so over time, the greater LA area has over 2,000 miles of washes. And some of them are big enough to drive a semi truck through, and some of them are so small you couldn't roll a tennis ball down them.
Mm.
But they all qualify under this, blanket term of washes.
Gotcha.
Um, so by definition, I guess once they go underground, they become tunnels. But that's what we were exploring. So really, the city was built on top of this infrastructure, so the water can just pass through and not create runoff in the city and flooding. But for a city that never gets much rain, 90% of the year, it was just a thoroughfare for my friends and I.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned rain, you mentioned the tunnels and water where it's supposed to be done. Out here in Tempe, Arizona, right now for us, because we don't get rain either, and we're having a problem because the droughts and Lake Powell and other big rivers or lakes who supply LA, us, they're kind of getting dried up. Have you heard conversations about what they're trying to do out in LA to get this drought up? Because right now, because of the fires last year and stuff like that, it's going to be an issue for the rain. So it's completely a natural disaster mess. What's the conversation about now when it comes to water,
But
rainwater, stuff like that? Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, well, it's interesting to see it from all sides. So I lived in LA for 36 years, and it would be drought, fires, drought, fires, drought, fires, and
Yeah.
it was this endless cycle. And then I moved to Washington, lived there for a couple years. I was in Vermont for a few years, and now I'm in Park City, Utah. And the interesting thing is the water that feeds Powell and all these other places comes from the Uinta Mountains, which is where I back to. So now I'm seeing it from the other end where the water here is being siphoned off to